there's shirts. And your own shirts.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry.
Thank you.
That's your flannel shirts and Pat's flannel shirts. Oh. That's for Bonnie and Debbie.
You can use a mine.
You can use theirs.
You got mine, Mom.
I didn't do anything. No, it's not.
Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Carrie. This is my little channel on YouTube where I get to talk about all the crafty things that I like to do. Today I'm recording on September 1st, 2022. It's like almost getting fall. Today is probably the first day in a really long time that it's been cool enough to be up here in my craft room. We've had some really hot weather, and it's very hot up here. This morning it was cool, and I was able to have windows open, and it feels really good. It's like we're on the cusp of fall hitting us, which is very exciting. So yeah, here we are. It's fall almost. So it's been a few weeks and I've got some stuff to share with you. I've got some knitting, crocheting. I'll talk about my dog quilts that I did give to my sisters-in-law, and hopefully I'll be able to insert a little bit of a clip of them receiving those gifts. So how are you guys doing? I mean, like, school's getting back into session. It's a very exciting time. Schools around here start on Tuesday, which is the day after Labor Day. So I'm not going back to school. As you know, if you watched last episode, I recently retired, which would give me some more time to help out with my parents. And it feels really nice not to have to get ready to go back to school. So anyway, let me just talk just briefly about the quilt that I put up on my wall. It's giving me the fall vibes, so I put it up. It's a quilt that I made many years ago. For a few years there, I don't know if it's still happening, but I went with some friends to what was called Quilt Camp, and it was held on the Oregon coast, and you went for like a long weekend, and there were classes all day. You just kind of went from one class to another, signed up for different techniques that you maybe wanted to learn, and stayed in like dormitory style bunk beds, and it was just a lot of fun to do. This was a class that I learned from Sharon Craig. I don't know if she's around anymore, but it was a ruler and a system of making those stars, really easily piecing them together, and it was really fun. I have since made something similar to that as a gift for David. And I love the quilt, and it has, for me, it's like fall vibes because it's got those warm tones, some peaches and golds and greens and stuff. So that's kind of my little fall quilt, because I have nothing that I'm working on currently quilt wise. So I'm kind of waiting until kind of like after October, because I'm going to be pretty busy leading up through October, and then November it's like cold and rainy, and sitting up here and sewing a quilt is fabulous. So no quilting right now. I am currently working on some things as gifts, so I can't really show you everything I'm working on. One thing, like, this is made out of batiks, and the type of, I guess the design or the way it was dyed reminds me of ice dyeing, and I've been doing some ice dyeing. We had Jim's birthday celebration here on Saturday. His birthday is the 27th of August, and so his family was all here, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to give the dog quilts that I previously made for my sisters-in-law. Talked about it. You guys have watched the progress of it. Made using some flannel shirts and different shirts from their parents, and gave them to his sisters-in-law, or to his sisters, as a memento gift. They wanted to do something with these shirts, didn't know what to do. I made a quilt. So in Jim's family, he has 3 sisters, 2 older sisters and a younger sister, and all 4 of those kids have birthdays in August, 2 years apart. It was very well planned. His mom was a planner. And so I thought, well, you know, it's like birthday month. It's even a better excuse to give them these quilts and to give them, you know, they're struggling. Like I've mentioned before, his mom's got dementia. She's declining pretty rapidly. And so I thought, well, that could maybe lift their spirits a little bit. And I just really wanted to give them to them. I didn't want to wait until Christmas or whatever. So I did. They were very surprised and they really loved it. At first, like his younger sister, she's like unfolding. She's like, oh, this is pretty. And then it was like, oh, this is like the shirt, you know, like she didn't realize what they were at first. And it really meant a lot to them. So I was just thrilled to give that to them. It made me feel really good. And so they'll have that memento forever. So something I tried something new. I wanted to do a label on the back and I wanted to do some sort of poem or whatever. Jim was not helping me. I said, find something that you want to say on your sister's quilt. And, you know, so anyway, I took it upon myself, found a quote, and I wanted to use infusible ink to iron onto fabric because then that's permanent. It doesn't fade. It's like it infuses into the fabric. But in order to use the infusible ink, you have to put it on fabric that has a high percentage of polyester in it. And I don't have polyester fabric. The fabrics I have are quilting cottons and it won't stick. It needs to have that polyester to like melt into or something. So a friend of mine has a printer that prints with the sublimation infusible ink. And so I made up a design, found a quote that I wanted to put on it, and so she printed it out for me. And then I'm like, well, I gotta find polyester fabric. So I went to Walmart to see if I could find something there, and I couldn't find anything. It was all cottons. So in the clearance section, I found a little kid's t-shirt that was like 40% polyester or 60% polyester, 40% cotton or something like that. And it was like $3 for this t-shirt. It was just this little kid's t-shirt. I'm like, okay, that's perfect. So I printed it or ironed it on to that, cut the label out. This is an extra one. So I put a fusible interfacing on the back so it's not stretchy because this is a t-shirt. It turned out a little bit fuzzy because I don't think there was enough polyester in the shirt, but it was good enough. So the quote I chose was, what we once have enjoyed, we can never lose. All that we love deeply becomes a part of us. And that's a Helen Keller quote. And I just thought that kind of went with what this was all about. So this was the extra one that was a little bit fuzzier than the rest of them. So I put that on the back of the quilt. I did sew the binding on by machine. So Lee gave me a good idea to watch Corey Yoder's video. She had a great video on how to bind my machine, and it was a game changer because otherwise I had 3 quilts to bind and I knew I'd never get them done. I mean, I might get them done by Christmas, but I can't sit and bind that long because my fingers start to go numb and I just don't enjoy it. So sewing the binding on by machine went really well. They looked great. My sisters-in-law loved the quilts and I am very happy. I'm very happy I did it. It was such a joy to make that for them and to see what it meant to them to receive it was exceptionally nice. So so that's out of the way. I ended up, once those were done, I had my sewing machine stuff, all my sewing stuff, my ironing board, my cutting mat, like all my sewing, quilting stuff. Downstairs, I set myself up in the dining room because it's just too hot up here to sew and have an iron on and stuff like that. When it's like 80 plus up here, it's like that's not what I want to do. So with the party happening, I'm like, okay, I got to get my stuff out of the dining room. Once those quilts were finished, I'm like, I'm not going to be quilting really until after when we get into winter almost. So I was good to bring everything back up here. But the next, not the next, but something I'm going to work on. Some friends were talking about doing the sampler quilt out of this 100 modern quilt blocks. It's a Tula Pink sampler book, and it basically, you just take and you make these like simple blocks, but you can end up making this like pretty cool quilt. And I thought, okay, I'll join in on that. I'm not one really to do quilt-alongs and stuff because I don't like to have those deadlines. I like to be able to do things when I'm in the mood for it. But I thought this would be good because I don't have necessarily like a stash of fabric. I just have a lot of scraps and leftover pieces from previous quilts. And I did start my temperature blanket with some of those scraps. Haven't touched that. I'm like way behind. I got through March. I made it 3 months and I'm like, Meh. So I have a lot of scraps and I thought, well, maybe I'll just work my way through this book and make like a sampler quilt out of the scraps that I have. That way I'm not having to buy fabric and you're just making small blocks and it should be good. So I'm going to go and get this spiral bound so that I can lay it open and leave it open to see the directions and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be kind of an ongoing project probably through the winter when I'm back up here and sewing and stuff. So if you do follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that I finished my crocheted vest. So I want to go into detail about it. And it's getting warm in here. I got to turn the fan on. But let me turn the fan on. Hang on a second. Okay, sorry about that, but I do have to have some air blowing because it's starting to warm up. So yeah, anyway. Okay, so the crocheted vest. So I finished it. I did sew in all the ends when we were camping a few weeks ago. That's when I finished it. And I just was sitting with my friend and we're visiting and I just sat there and sewed in all the gazillion ends and it's done. It fits. It's exactly what I had envisioned, which is like super cool because sometimes I have these ideas and doesn't necessarily turn out. So here's the vest. I can put it on, I suppose. Okay, I'm gonna put it on. All right, here we are. I've got my vest. And so what it is it's just 2 rectangles, but when I joined here, pulls it in to make it, fit around your body and gives you like a short sleeve. I wanted to do like a V-neck. I would have liked maybe a little bit lower, but it'll be fine. I have a feeling this will maybe stretch a little. But this is my finished vest and I think I'm gonna wear it quite a bit. It is heavy. I'm gonna take it off now because I can't wear this when it's warm. So I weighed it once it was done. So once it was all seamed, the ribbing on and everything, and it's 600 grams. So that's equivalent to 6 skeins of worsted weight yarn for a short sleeve thing. Now, crochet does take up more yarn, makes it a little bit thicker, but I had so much fun making this. I started it on a camping trip and finished it on a camping trip a month later. So I made it in a month, and this is how I approached it. So 2 strands of fingering weight yarn. I went around 4 rounds. And the reason why I did that is because this was made using minis. And some of the minis were only 5 grams, some of them were 10 grams. And doing 4 rounds used up about 8.5-ish grams of it held double. So that means a little over 4 grams of each. So on those 5-gram minis, I was able to use the whole thing to make a block. So that's how I decided how big to make the squares. And then I figured out what my square size was going to be. Measured myself to see how big I thought I wanted it. How many squares would I need to make that happen? And that's what I did. And then I looked up on YouTube and found out how to make half granny squares. So that gave me the V-neck. I looked up how to do a ribbing crochet wise, but it looked like it was very labor intensive and I was much more comfortable with knitting. So I have joined them with this brighter green. I did a slip stitch join. These videos that I used were from Tony of TL Yarn Crafts, and I'll link her YouTube channel down below. She's on Instagram and everything too, but I just kind of looked like, I don't even know how I Googled it, but did a search, found what I found. And so because I had this green outlining each square, I wanted to outline along the edge here. So I just picked up and did a single crochet, and I skipped every 4th stitch. So then that gave me the amount of stitches that I would need to do the knitted ribbing, because when you knit ribbing, like for a neckband or whatever, or pick up to do a neckband, you usually skip a stitch. You don't knit into every single stitch, because then it gets ruffly. And when I was crocheting the single crochet, I noticed if I picked up every stitch, it was kind of getting ruffly. So I just would pick up 3, skip 1, pick up 3, skip 1. And then I had a nice chain to pick up for knitting. So these are the 2 skeins I used for the outline. I think I dyed this one, and I think this one might be a Blue Moon Fiber Arts like cast off one. And then these 2, one has a sparkle in it and one doesn't. These were both dyed by me in this darker purple color, and that's what I held double to do the ribbing. So I picked up the ribbing, you know, making sure I had the amount of stitches that I needed to have to make it an even. I did a 1x1 rib, and then I followed somebody's video, and I cannot remember how I did it, on how to do a V-neck, because you're picking this up and you've got to do something here to make that a V-neck. I cannot remember which one I found. If I find it, I'll link it below, but I just did a search on YouTube of V-neck ribbing or something like that, and found something that made sense. So it did that. Now it's not perfect, because I really don't know what I'm doing. This was totally making it up as I went along. So if there were things I just sort of like knit an extra or crocheted an extra something to make it all work. And then I did ribbing around the armhole. Same thing, picked up, you can see on this side, picked up with the green. So it's really soft, and I was worried that it was going to be like kind of crazy, but I don't think it is. I mean, it's not like calm by any means, but it's not, I don't think I'm going to feel clownish, which was my main concern. So I love it. I will be bringing this to Rhinebeck, and it's going to be warm, but if I just wear like a long sleeve t-shirt with this, I think it'll be very comfortable. I do see me wearing this at home a lot, because I do have a fleece vest that I wear almost all winter long, because I don't want to wear, like I couldn't wear this thick of a sweater with arms and all that in the house and stuff. Like it's just too warm. And since I don't really go anywhere, I'm in the house. So there's the back side. I just laid out the squares so that I was hoping to not get 2 of the same colors together, kind of a thing. And it's just really lovely. So then I wasn't sure, like, do I block each square before I put it together? And I thought, well, you knit a sweater, you knit the whole thing before you block it. So I didn't block my squares. They were all made the same size. They all had the same amount of stitches. And so I just put them together like that and then blocked it. So it is just 2 rectangles with a couple of half squares here, and then just seamed up the side and left a big enough hole, which was equal to 2 squares, and made an armhole. So really pretty easy. I think it would be really cool to try and do something like this with maybe a calmer palette. And maybe even like kind of all in the same color or just a couple of colors to just keep it more muted. I don't know, that could be kind of fun. It would also be kind of fun if I didn't put it, you know, have the center and make that ribbing, and then I could make it more of an open cardigan style. Could add sleeves. I mean, there's a lot of different things you could do with this basic style, basic square. And there's just 2 squares, 2 rectangles. So I will hopefully have the opportunity to wear that at Rhinebeck if it's cold enough. And I am really thrilled with how it turned out. So a couple of things I did do too is I had a couple of skeins that were whole skeins that I threw in my bag. Like if I have a mini that doesn't really go with anything else, I could put either a pink or blue with it. And I did do that a couple of times. So that was, I did add that to my minis, but for the most part, it was all the minis and I didn't have to buy any yarn for it. So definitely a good stash buster. So the 2 skeins or the 2 strands of fingering is probably more equivalent to a worsted weight. I did the squares using a 6mm hook, which is a J hook. And I did the slip stitch green to put them all together with a 6.5. And that was recommended when I watched Tony's videos of using a bigger hook to do the slip stitches to keep it looser so that it didn't pull it in too much. So I did that. And then when I did the knitted ribbing, I did it in a 6mm, which was an 8, I think. I think I did it with an 8. So I just matched whatever I did the squares with, or maybe a size down from that. I can't remember now, but matched millimeter wise what I was doing with the crochet. So that's that. I have also been working on my Heat de Fude sweater. I'm at a point where I'm just like, I hope to goodness I'm doing this right. So when I last showed this, I was somewhere, a marker, oh, maybe my marker came out. Oh no. So it doesn't look like I did much when you look at the marker right here, but I've got sleeves. So what I was doing, see, I wasn't sure where I was, is I was knitting this flat. You have provisional cast on, and so then I did a 3 needle bind off, and you make sleeves, and then now I've got it going in the round this way, and you bind off. Where am I? I want to make sure I don't lose stitches. You bind off part of that, and that becomes the back of the neck. So that'll be like this. Then I have my sleeves, and then I continue on. There's like this ribbed band that separates what you did on the top with the bottom, and you do a ton of increases and continue with this, and this will be, what will this be? The back and the front. It'll be like the rest of it. So it's kind of confusing at this point. I hope I'm doing it right. I think my stitch count is right. The last time I counted it, I've done the ribbing part that separates the top section with the bottom section, and I wasn't really clear the last time I was looking at the instructions of how I go forward, and I'm just really just following the pattern and just doing what I think it's telling me to do. It takes a lot of concentration, especially right now. And I was getting tired the other night. I was working on it, and I'm like, this just isn't making sense, and I don't know if I've done this right, so let me put it aside. But I really hope I'm doing it right, because I think it's going to be a beautiful sweater. This will not be done by Rhinebeck for sure, but because now I've increased like a ton of stitches, so it's going to take longer to get through the lace, because the whole thing is this lace. But it will be very pretty, and I know I will wear it. I will get use out of it when it's done. I just have to do it when I can sit and concentrate and not have anybody trying to have a conversation with me. until I get through and I'm sure where I'm at. And then it's just a matter of doing this lace pattern, which doesn't take a ton of concentration. So right now I'm just like, I'm at that critical point of don't screw it up. So this is yarn that I dyed for this, and it was undyed yarn that was given to me. 70 baby alpaca, 20 silk, and 10 cashmere. So very, very soft, very drapey. It's just going to be a really slow process. And I really just need to work on it when Jim's not home and trying to talk to me or have the TV on or anything, until I can get to a point where I'm like, okay, I know where I am and I can do this. I'll get there, just not right now. So in the meantime, cast on something new. And it's all your guys' fault. I had several people say, cast it on. So I talked about the Stephen West dotted rays pattern that I wanted to make using yarn that my friend Erin of Fiber Hustle dyed and gave me. So those are the 2 skeins he gave me. I dyed this to go with it, so I have the 3rd skein because I want to make the large version, and I thought 2 skeins was enough, but you need a 3rd skein. So I had I over dyed this. It was a color that I had from when I dyed yarn, and I wanted it a little deeper, so I just added more of the color. So I am not striping it. What I'm doing is I'm working with this, and then there are yarn over rows, and the yarn over rows do make a stripe, and I'm using this, which is left over from my, I'll figure out what cowl it was that I made using it, and I'll put it over here because I can't remember for the life of me what the name of it is. Anywho, I thought that it went well with the colors that he had dyed, so I am, oh gosh, I'm in the middle of a row. That was dumb. I was working on it yesterday when I met up with friends, and I just stopped in the middle of a row. But this is what it's looking like so far. So right now in this lighter of the colors, you can't really see the stripes very well, but in the rows where there's the yarn overs and it gives the eyelet, you do have that lavender violet color, which will show up more once I get into these other 2 colors. It'll show up more. So there's like, I had however many grams, and I looked back on people's project pages that had done something similar, and they said how many grams, and I think I should have enough. If not, it's no big deal if I don't do it all the way to the end. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm sure I'm a little over halfway with this. So when this runs out, I'll just move into this color, so it'll be more of a color block look. But once it's wrapped around, it'll all just kind of go together. So this has been a really good project because it's garter. There's not a whole lot of counting and thinking. When you get, so you're making, I wish I could show you, but I'm like partway through the thing. You get to where you're making wedges. It's not going to show on this because there's not enough contrast, but you get to where you're making wedges, and so you're doing short rows. You're knitting to, you know, so many stitches, and you just turn and go back the other way. It's not a wrap and turn, you just turn. And then at that space is where you make your eyelet hole. So what I've done is I've put a marker where I'm turning. So like you'll go so many stitches and you turn and you go back, and then when you're going back, you're supposed to go, say, 10 stitches before the last turn. Well, instead of like knitting and trying to count back, I'll make the turn. I know I'm going to come back and make another turn in 10 stitches, so I'll knit to 10 stitches, put the marker, and continue on. Then when I go back, I make the turn at the marker, and I'm not having to count anything, and I just kind of keep doing that till you get to the end. You make an eyelet row, go back, and then you start the next wedge. So really pretty simple. I'm hoping I can show you a little bit better what I'm talking about when I get to the other color, because you'll be able to see that eyelet row a little bit better. But this was like yesterday I met up with some friends, which was really lovely to be able to do that again. And it was a great project for that because I don't have to put a whole lot of thought into it. I'm not counting anything or worrying about any kind of patterning. So So that's good, and this is going to be a really good color for me. Ah, so good. Then I had this like weird idea. Well, I don't know if it's weird. It's just an idea. It may work, may not. So I decided I wanted to try and make a cinch sack. So this is the cinch sack I have, which I may just end up using this. I thought it would be great to use at Rhinebeck because I can put some purchases and stuff. And my original idea was to do the crocheted backpack, and it was that mosaic crochet that was just not working out so good, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to finish that. So I thought, well, I really want like a cinch sack. I could just use this because I have it, but why not make something new? Because I'm me, and that's what happens. So I thought, what if it's just a rectangle. You put, somehow attach your straps on the bottom. You make the top gathered so that you can cinch it. I don't have to do a pocket on the outside. I can do one on the inside. So I thought, what if this front piece was knitted? And then do like a slippery material on the back, since that's going to be rubbing against your clothes. I thought if I have it knitted, it's just going to get pilly. It's going to pill up whatever I'm wearing. So if it's slick, it just won't do that. So if I just make the front panel, which is just a rectangle of fabric, could I make this work? So I had a skein of, this was sock yarn by Red Heart. Well, actually it goes this way. This is all rolled up because I haven't blocked it or anything. Knit it up on my knitting machine, so I didn't have to do it by hand. I would need more than the one skein, but this gave me an idea of size and would it work and all that. So this is a self-patterning kind of sock yarn, a little more rustic. I would need 2 skeins if I was going to make this work. And I'm trying to decide, see, that way's stretchier. So I think if I made it this way, I could, when I did the alpaca chino pillow, Intarsia pillow, I don't know how many episodes ago that was that I showed. Oh, it was like at Christmas time. So back November, December-ish probably, that I showed it. I can do iron on a fusible interfacing to make it stable, and then it makes it a sewable piece of fabric. I would block this so that it's not rolling. I'm not going to use this particular thing. This was just a sample. And then make the cinch sack out of it and have this be the outside. I think it would be really cute, especially going to some place like Rhinebeck. So I've got some other projects I need to finish first, some gifts that I'm making. So I got to finish that first before I tackle it. So this may or may not happen. I'm not sure. That actually turned out pretty cute. I wasn't sure what it was going to do once it was knitted in a bigger swatch, because this is meant for socks. So, you're making little socks. I didn't know if you would lose the stripe, but the stripe still hung out. So I've got a couple skeins, because this is this Red Heart yarn, which I don't even know if they make anymore, was what I started knitting socks with. It was the only thing that I got, and they had it at my local Fred Meyer, which doesn't carry it anymore because I don't know if Red Heart even makes it. A little bit more rustic, which I thought would be great for a backpack because it'll be more durable. But this is what I used to make my socks out of. So I have a couple skeins left, because since then I've found beautiful hand-dyed yarn and self-striping hand-dyed yarn, and so I've been making socks with that. So I don't know, I'm kind of playing around with what I'm going to do with this. So there you go, there's that. I did make one purchase for like another project, probably after Rhinebeck, because I gotta get some stuff done before I go to Rhinebeck. But Pearl Soho had their buttercup cotton on sale. It was like $6 something a yard, or a skein. And I thought, I really want to try and make a t-shirt. So I had my eye on the Anna tee. And Anna tee, I'll put info here, link down below, all that kind of stuff. Just like a t-shirt, like knit my own t-shirt. And I thought, this is very soft. And my friend Kevin of Needles at the Ready, he uses this for stuff. It's just very nice. And I thought, well, $6 a skein, the t-shirt's not going to cost me very much. So it has some really neat construction with a saddle shoulder, which I thought could be kind of neat. So this is in the future to do that. And I thought that was a pretty icy color and would be a good color for me. And it would be a good like summery kind of color. So that's it. Take a breath. I think that's all I have for you today. I wish I could show you what I was working on, but I can't. So maybe another time. I hope your end of summer is fun. I hope you know, for those of you that haven't started back to school or have kids that have started back to school, I hope you have like one last hurrah this weekend. Otherwise, I will check back with you in a couple of weeks before I go camping again. And hopefully some of this stuff has a little more progress. I will see you guys all in a couple of weeks. How's that? Okay, bye.